My name is Jason Barnett. I'm a former teacher, a whistleblower, and a children's advocate. I'm also a Christian who believes that God has called me to speak up for the most vulnerable and to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. As part of that, I now lead a Safer Schools campaign group that's connected to over 150 families from across the UK and Ireland that have lost children to suicide or had children suffer serious harm due to alleged failures to address bullying, physical and sexual violence in schools, including rape. Now, in 2021, the campaign led to an application to Westminster Magistrates Court and then the High Court in London to bring a private criminal prosecution to address an alleged deliberate failure within government to investigate complaints related to the issues, as well as an alleged cover-up of a number of failings and potential misconduct. Now, that case and the findings of the High Court at this stage have provided a clear basis for the first ever independent statutory public inquiry of its kind into those harms and deaths. And I think that's the real fear, that it's like, once they acknowledge this is an issue, then it's how big is that issue. It's similar to the child abuse inquiry. Nobody ever wanted to go near that. Nobody ever wanted to ask the question. I was involved in a whistleblowing case from 2014 that evidenced that potentially every child in the country was at risk of harm due to failings in government safeguarding systems and procedures when it came to bullying and violence in schools. The case also raised serious questions of whether or not failings over decades had previously been covered up by ministers and officials, as well as the mainstream media. So from 2019, I began to warn more than 650 ministers and MPs on numerous occasions that as a national safeguarding issue, the lives of school children in every constituency were at risk, and that every MP had a duty under law, having been given the evidence, to investigate. I always assumed that, okay, if you take these issues to the top, someone will act. But sadly, nothing was ever done. So sharing those failures online led initially to families from across the UK coming forward to say their children had been failed by the same systems, many of them having lost children to suicide or having had children seriously harmed. The evidence those families provided led to meetings in Leeds, then Westminster, and then in Parliament itself in February 2020. Now, out of the 650 MPs invited, only 2 ever showed up to meet and hear from the grieving families. Ultimately, once again, nothing was ever done by any MP to investigate the deaths and failings. So over the next few months, Gavin Williamson, specifically as the Education Secretary, was challenged on numerous occasions to investigate the children's deaths and harms, as well as an alleged cover-up of the issues, but failed to do so. That failure led to a complaint to the London Metropolitan Police that the failures to investigate were deliberate and that there was a case to be heard against the Education Secretary for misconduct in public office. The police assessed the evidence over a period of around 11 weeks, but ultimately decided against further action. That in turn led to an application for a private criminal prosecution in Westminster Magistrates Court in March 2021, and then that led to a hearing in the High Court in November 2021. This was where the judges had to decide if the alleged misconduct was serious enough to cross the very high criminal threshold. Now, it was ultimately decided that the evidence couldn't determine one way or the other whether any failure to investigate was deliberate, and so the application had to be dismissed. The High Court did find, though, that on the face of the evidence, no one in government has ever investigated and ever offered any explanation for failing to do so, despite being made aware of a continued rise in the number of harms and deaths. And the High Court found that this demonstrated tremendous incompetence. So children are losing their lives. The judges said they're losing their lives, and the judges said it's down to incompetence. It's not that people are trying to do something, people are doing nothing. So the court findings provided a clear basis for an independent statutory public inquiry, as I mentioned, into the numerous harms and deaths. The request for an inquiry was made to government earlier this year, an email sent to each of around 650 MPs asking whether or not, in light of the High Court findings, they would support such an investigation. Those emails were sent out before Easter, and so far only Rachel Maskell, the Labour MP, has chosen to respond. Now, Rachel's fervent support for an inquiry is significant in this. If one MP can receive the same information as everyone else and immediately recognise that to save lives, supporting an inquiry is the right thing to do, then it begs the question of what's going through the minds of every other MP when they choose to ignore the appeal. Since 2017 onwards, MPs have had access to evidence including court records, police documents, the stories and the pictures of many of the children, as well as video testimonials from the grieving families, so know exactly what's been happening to the children, and so there's no excuse for the lack of response. So I think that's what this video is about. It's just letting MPs know that this is not going to stay in the box forever. It's not going away. I think the most alarming fact is that every opposition party, including Labour, has inexplicably failed to challenge government on such an important and controversial issue, and not once chosen to ask any questions about the deaths of so many children, while at the same time allowing a man alleged to have failed them to be knighted. This is just one of the many reasons why we have to have an inquiry. So almost every mainstream media organisation, as well as numerous editors, journalists, media presenters, including some of the biggest names, had been involved in investigating this story over the last few years. But suddenly, all investigations were stopped dead the moment it became clear that ministers and MPs were alleged to be criminally to blame. The only reason government and ministers have been able to take the potentially criminal stance that they have over the years and ignore what's happening to these children is that the media, by effectively facilitating a blackout of the story, are allowing them to do so. Now, as a media organisation or journalist, if you're part of the establishment, I don't expect much from you at all, even if children are dying. But for those organisations that claim to be different, now's the time to stand up and to speak out. It's like, these are your MPs, charged with keeping you and your families safe. They know over the coming months and years, some of you are sadly going to lose children to suicide. They know some of your children are going to be seriously physically and sexually assaulted, and even raped, and their lives changed forever. But at the same time as continuing to support fines and imprisonment of parents who fail to send their children into unsafe schools, they continue to fail to protect them. That's why an inquiry is so important. And if there's any MP that chooses not to support it, I don't think there's a single one deserves to still be in a seat come the next general election. And that will be something I'll have no hesitation in campaigning vociferously for. As part of that, we've now created a website where you can see a list of every MP who has so far failed to pledge their support, and that list will be consistently updated. That being said, every single MP still has the opportunity to respond as requested and demonstrate to the constituents that the children's lives do actually matter. They may not be able to change the mistakes that have been made in the past, but can certainly act to make sure that the same mistakes can never be made in the future.